So what I want to do this morning is what I call a post-Easter talk, because we did a whole lot of things about the Easter season when it happens, but then tends to just stop after Easter Sunday. So I want to pick up on that, and I'm going to start off with one of the things that is rarely known that Jesus said, and it's not really talked about. You won't hear it in many Sunday services. But it's one of those sayings he said from the cross that deserves a little more attention. So as you know, on Friday, when Jesus was being crucified, disciples and family members were there with him, and at the foot of the cross was Peter and Mary, his mother. And while they're standing there, they hear Jesus say, "Peter, I can," and he runs out of breath. And Peter and Mary are standing there, and they look at each other and like, "Did you hear what he said? What did he say?" "I didn't hear it." Just kind of mumbled. She goes, "Well, this might be the last thing he ever says. We should probably find out what he said." And Peter said, "Lord, what did you say? I didn't hear you." He said, "Peter, I," and just ran out of breath. Mary says, "See if you can get a little closer." So he gets a little closer and asks again, and still he can't hear him. So Mary says, "Okay, get up on my shoulders." And she hoists him up, and he gets up as high as he can, and he says, "Yes, Lord." What? And Jesus says, "Peter, I can see your house from up here." Okay, not really in the Bible. Not one of his last sayings. But there's some meaning in that from what Jesus is going through and what he can see from up there. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about, is this whole Easter story of death and resurrection. And we kind of get stuck on that word resurrection, and we focus on the resurrection. But in unity, that doesn't do anything for us if we can't bring it into what it means for us today. And what I want to do is change the suffix on that word. And Easter isn't really about the resurrection. It's about your resurrecting. It's not a one and done thing. Easter shouldn't be about just what happened 2,000 years ago. It should be about what's happening right now in your life, in every moment, moving forward. What is resurrecting in you? And why do we want to keep going on and on with this resurrection process? Because when you are resurrecting, you're constantly raising yourself to a higher spiritual consciousness. You're bringing about more of the truth of who you really are, that Christ presence that we talked about in the meditation. That's what we're resurrecting. We're resurrecting that knowledge that we're all one with the divine, that the divine lives in each and every one of us. Friends, family members, loved ones, neighbors, people you're in conflict with, everywhere. So to keep bringing up this resurrecting of our Christ presence, of our divine nature, it's really tied to the power of creation. And we need to continually create what's happening in our lives and creating expressions of the divine in the world. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore talks about this process, and he says it's in the way that we bring ideas from the divine into the manifestation in this world. And according to Charles, in divine mind is perfect thought, perfect ideas, all knowledge, all wisdom at the level of the divine. But somehow we have to manifest that in the world. And we're connected to that divinity. That Christ's presence comes in and through us. In our times of prayer and meditation, we get inspiration and discernment. And he calls the process of bringing those divine ideas down into our minds, he calls them in the divine, in the perfect. It's a perfect ideal thought. And then as we try to understand that and get access to that, because of our limitations as human beings, it has to take a slightly less perfect form because we can't understand perfection. So he calls that formative thought. That formative thought is the thought within us where we take that divine idea and bring it into a level that we can understand. And then once we understand it, we can manifest that in the world. So let me give you an example. In divine mind is the perfect ideal thought of a song. A song. But each and every one of us, if we thought about a song and tried to create or write a song to each and every one of us, we would understand that a little bit different. It would have a different tempo. It would have different lyrics. It would have different rhythms. Because we would form that divine idea of a perfect song, the idea of a song, in our minds with our formative thoughts of what that means to us. And then we can create and play and bring out our version of a song. And because each and every one of us expresses the divine differently, every song is different. That's how we bring the perfection of the divine into manifestation in the world through the process of creation. And it's amazing the variety and the differences that we can do in that creation process. How unique each and every one of us are. I had to do a little research and I went online and I found out that in Spotify, they have 100 million registered songs. And they put another 100 million songs or 100,000 songs into their registry every day. There's another song registration program called Grace Note that estimates they have 200 million registered songs. That's the power to create 200 different ideas, manifestations of that one idea of song. And then if you look at all of humanity, it's estimated that there's been over 150 billion songs written and recorded around the world since time began. 150 billion different ways for us to manifest the divine idea of a song. In your lifetime, you'll probably sing 15,000 different songs. 15,000 different songs, different ways for you to express one divine idea that you can create and bring forth into this world. Think of the infinite number of divine ideas available to you that you can form with your mind into a way that you can manifest them in the world. I often wonder, is this evidence of our wanting to perfect whatever's been created, to perfect whatever brings us joy, or just our unending need to create? We're driven as spiritual beings to create, to bring forth the divine in this world. 150 billion ways to just create a song. So that's the resurrecting principle that I want to bring to your attention today. That you've got infinite possibilities available to you, to us, to me, to spend time with the divine and bring forth those divine ideas into our minds and manifest them in the world and bring us up to a higher level of spiritual consciousness in the process as we do it. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't end on Easter Sunday. It isn't something you celebrate that someone else did a whole long time ago. What does it do for us today? And what is the meaning for us? To continue to resurrect what's good and loving and whole and bring that out into the world. And we want to be fearless in doing that too, because sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes you see some way, some place that goodness needs to be brought into the world and it's being fought against, or you don't have the courage to bring it forth. It would take all the courage I have in the world to walk over to that microphone right now and sing a song. And it would take all the courage in the world for you to sit there and listen to it. But if I was called to do it, I need to have the spiritual courage to step up and do what I'm being called to do. And this is what this whole Easter process was about. Because Lent was about making room for what's coming forth, what's new and what's better in our lives. It was all about letting go of what doesn't serve us in a positive manner anymore. So many people focus on, I gave up chocolate for 40 days, or I didn't smoke a cigarette for 40 days, or I broke a bad habit, or I didn't say a bad word, or whatever. But that's not really what the purpose of Lent is for, metaphysically for us. It isn't about breaking a bad habit in the physical world. It's probably more spiritually effective if we break a bad habit in our spiritual world. Those ideas that I can't, or I couldn't, or I shouldn't. Those ideas that there isn't enough, or I don't have enough. Those ideas of unforgiveness, of regret. Those are the things that we want to spend 40 days worth of our energy getting out of our lives, moving out of, so that on our Palm Sunday, we can take those palm fronds and wave them and welcome in the new and the good and the positive that's replacing those things we released in Lent. And Easter Sunday is our willingness to move the stone away from us, to let go of whatever's been blocking us, to step forward into the light and bring forth whatever that is that we've been forming in our formative thoughts, are our ways of bringing the divine into the world. It might just be a commitment to smile at least one more person every single day. It could be something simple. It could be something major. It could be life-changing. It could be a new relationship or stepping into a new relationship, ending one that doesn't help, walking away from a job that no longer feeds your soul to move into one that feeds your spiritual being. Big or small, it's that step forward into the light, into something better. And it doesn't just happen that one time. It happens in every aspect of our lives on a continuous basis. We're constantly resurrecting that divine presence in us. And that's our job. That's our goal. That's our intention in our spiritual life and growth. Because every time that we realize and recognize through prayer and meditation or practice that divine Christ presence within us, we resurrect that spiritualness, knowledge, and awareness in us. And we also bury those thoughts of lack and limitation just a little bit further in the ground. We get to put them behind us a little bit more. And the good news with this process is we're not alone. It isn't something that you have to completely figure out on your own, because the divine is constantly pushing things forward into your life, constantly bubbling up ideas and inspirations if you spend the time to listen and be aware. A lot of times that's what meditation is for. It's a time of listening, to be inspired. Even if an idea doesn't come to you in that moment of meditation, it's being open so that it can start filtering into your consciousness. So when you see those opportunities to be good in the world and express the divine, they're more easily recognized. Again, I'm a visual person, so I always think of this divine wellspring that's available to each and every one of us. Kind of like, have you ever been to Blue Springs over in DeLand or Tarpon Springs or any of the springs around here? The first time I saw Blue Springs, it was kind of unsettling for me because I had only ever seen rivers and streams. And no matter how far up the river or the stream you go, it continues to go. But when you're at Blue Springs, you walk up this path and you follow it, and it's a pretty good sized stream, and then it just starts. There's just like sides all the way around it, and then the stream goes that way. And you're just like, it just doesn't register in your mind that it has to come from somewhere. But it just comes from within. There's the boil down at the bottom. If you stand real still, you can actually see the water coming up and moving on the surface as it bubbles up and then creates this stream. And that's kind of like my visualization of the divine within you. That there is this constant bubbling up, this source, this energy, this light and this love. You can't see where it's coming from, but it's always there and you can't shut it off, and it just keeps coming out. So you want to go to the source. That's what we say prayer and meditation is for. Go to the source. Go to that time of silence. Get closer to the boil itself, to where the ideas, the water is crystal clear coming forth. And then where is it going to flow out into the world? Through you. Where can you go in your life to bring forth this wellspring of happiness and joy and love? What area of your life is thirsty for this higher level, this resurrecting of the divine in your life? It might be time to let go of that grudge you've been holding against a sibling since the 4th grade when they broke your toy. It might be time to let go of an old regret of something you never accomplished. It might be time to let go of something you've been worrying about that's going to happen in the future that may or may not ever happen. Let go of an old stereotype about a certain type of person. If we could release and let go of those things that limit us, those beliefs that someone's given us that we can't or we shouldn't or we wouldn't, then we free up that boiling, that bubbling up within us of what's possible. So where maybe with those thoughts of lack and limitation, have you rolled a stone across the entrance of your tomb and trapped yourself inside? Is there places where you need to knock that rock out of the way, push it down the hill, and come out into the light? That's the resurrecting from the Easter season that we want to take forward into the rest of this year. This realizing that everything that no longer serves us, that's been limiting us and holding us back and telling us we're less than the perfect and whole spiritual beings that we are, it's time to leave in the ground. Bury it a little further. Let it go and step further into the light. Because the truth be told, you are the best you've ever been. You are the best you have ever been. But you're also the best you're ever going to be so far. This is the best you can be so far. And as you continue to resurrect, just think what you might be able to see from way up here. Amen.